Howdy, folks. This is Dr. Matt Grieshop, Director of the Grimm Family Center for Organic Production and Research at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and you're joining us for Organic Chat. Well, howdy, folks. I'm here with Max Eatchel. He's an intern and worker on the Student Organic Farm. He's also helped out with some research, and he's here today with us for Organic Chat. So, Max, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how did you get involved in farming?
Yeah, I'm originally from Park City, Utah, and I've always had kind of an interest in agriculture. I come from a family of farmers out in Utah. They used to grow sugar beets out there.
Oh, wow.
But nobody in my direct family actually farmed. Mm-hmm. And then COVID hit, and we were all kind of stuck in our houses, and I got really into gardening.
Oh, okay.
And that's kind of where I found a passion for growing food.
What were your favorite plants to garden?
I started off easy stuff like the herbs and the radishes and things that would be quick and satisfying, and then slowly worked my way. Me and my buddy eventually built a little greenhouse with a hydroponic system.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was awesome.
So did you do a coconut core hydroponic system or
NFT?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long have you been working with us at the Cal Poly Organic Farm?
Let's see here, coming up on a year now.
Yeah,
throughout the summer and coming up on a year.
That's great. So what are three things you think of if I were to say the word organic agriculture?
Organic agriculture. I'd say complex. I'd say I kind of lean towards greenwashing at times as a word. And I also think of that as the future as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So complex, greenwashing in the future.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah. I think organic agriculture kind of falls under, it's a huge umbrella term, and a lot of things that fall under it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of complicated issues that arise with it. And so kind of where my mind goes is the certification process, the barriers to entry, who organic agriculture serves on the other side of it, on the product level. Let's see here. As far as greenwashing goes, I know that there's just a lot of issues around the industry of people, marketing their product as beneficial for the earth. And I think it's not necessarily a bad sentiment, but I think the reality of the situation is a lot of these larger industrial practices can be harmful when they're saying they're being beneficial. And I think that falls under the category of greenwashing at times. And then the future, especially with California agriculture, we're moving away from the synthetics. Everything's getting more regulated, which I think ultimately will be a good thing. I think it's going to improve the health of our population and ecosystems surrounding our agricultural land. And yeah, I see things moving in that direction.
All right. So since you've started working on the farm, this is two questions I like to ask people, and don't take them the wrong way.
Okay.
But since working at the Cal Poly Organic Farm, what do you think has been your sort of biggest farming or mistake?
Farming
Yeah. Big part of learn by doing.
Definitely. I think it was definitely a learning process getting comfortable on the tractors.
Okay. Yeah.
And I still do it. I still make mistakes sometimes. Letting off the clutch too quick and bumping forward, or not raising an implement before your drive off and it scrapes the ground up a little bit. And I think that there's been some of those there for sure. It's been a learning process, but
those are pretty minor.
Really fun stuff too. It's like you gotta make some mistakes and figure it out.
I like to tell lots of people that, one of the biggest services that we provide as a hands-on learning institution is the students break our stuff. And hopefully they don't break your stuff after you hire them. Because
it's already done.
They've had a chance.
Yeah, there
exactly.
You go.
And there's all kinds of stuff that happens.
Yeah.
But, it's all just stuff. So the converse of that is, what's been your biggest sort of aha moment or success in farming while you've been with us at the organic farm?
I think going through a whole crop rotation is, I didn't realize how exciting it would be. And just looking back on it, I think the first thing that I planted I was there for the planting and the harvesting, was a summer squash planting.
Mm-hmm.
And the satisfying element of harvesting a crop that you've planted and raised, definitely a big aha moment. And just thinking about the amount of calories that are coming off of this one plot of land, you know, and the fact that we worked on this together, and now we're seeing the fruits of our labor.
What advancement or trend, you mentioned that you think that California is moving in the direction of organics. So what advancement or trend in organic ag excites you the most? And how do you see it interacting with the future of maybe sustainable agriculture in general?
I'd have to go with biological controls.
Okay.
I think that's becoming more of a tool that farmers are utilizing to get away from pesticides in general, keeping their action thresholds low, or below their pest populations below the action thresholds, using natural ecosystems and thinking about their cropping systems like natural ecosystems, and trying to find balance instead of 100% efficacy on the pest issues.
Right. And what are you hoping to do next? I mean, as you finish up the organic farm, because you're a senior, correct?
Yes, senior.
So graduate.
That is the big question. I don't know. There are a lot of things that interest me. Currently, I'm interviewing to grow apples for a cidery back in Utah.
Nice.
But I also could see myself working for a host of different things. It'd be really interesting to go into biologicals. There's a lot of companies that are on the scene now and doing things really cool projects to be seeing. I know you and I have talked about this, but maybe potentially getting into organic fertilizers and the production of organic fertilizers, and looking into that. So yeah, there are a lot of possibilities for the future, and it's all exciting stuff.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about the apple orchard that you're interviewing at?
Yeah. It's a little bit smaller scale. I think it's 20 or 30 acres.
Okay.
And it's all going to be on trellis systems. They're kind of going for a winery aesthetic to it. They're going to do 2 large greenhouses as well as their trellis apples. And I think they're trying to put them in the ground and get some geothermal activity, or harvest some geothermal activity, to be able to grow vegetable crops year round further farm to table.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which would be really cool. I know that finding the correct cultivars for Utah is hard. I think they're using really cold tolerant, kind of more crabapple varieties. Yeah, it's really cool to see that pop up near my hometown. There's not a lot of agriculture out there, but it's really cool to see more and more people get interested in where their food comes from, be a part of that process, and be excited about it and willing to support it. There's been a huge influx of support and excitement around the project, and excited to see where it goes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So are these established farmers getting this going, or?
These people, it's a husband and wife, the Coyles, and they're super rad. I think they both worked in the beverage industry.
Okay.
I don't know if you know High West, but they've been in the beverage industry. I don't think they're traditionally farmers, but they're getting into it, and kind of that sentiment around people just really caring about where their food and products are coming from. Yeah. To assure quality and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've ever seen, outside of pollinizers, a high density crabapple tree.
Yeah.
Seen them again as pollinizers. Mixed into other fruit, but that'll be really interesting.
Yeah.
So, thinking about the Cal Poly Organic Farm, what are some of the things that you'd be excited to see at the organic farm as it develops and keeps moving forward?
That's a good question. I think we're doing a lot on increasing the organic matter of our soils and improving the soil structure that we have.
Yeah.
I think for a while we didn't have the best practices, and it resulted in some poor structure.
Yeah.
And not necessarily super low organic matter, but we could always be doing better on that front.
Yeah.
And so I think the implementation of cover cropping, of thinking a lot more carefully about crop rotations.
Yeah.
What nutrients are we using? What macros, micros? Like what's the effect that this crop will have, and how should we think about what the next crop is going to be, and be very cautious and careful about the plantings that we're doing. And I think now that we've been having more of a focus on that, looking at soil health, I think it'll be really cool to see where that focus takes the soil. And yeah, just really excited about what the future holds on that aspect.
Yeah. And for the listeners, we have extremely heavy soils. For vegetable production, at least. Yeah. A lot of clay. So it's you can get yourself in trouble in a hurry if you don't pay very close attention to your tillage practices.
Definitely.
In particular.
Yeah.
Because it's just unforgiving.
Yeah.
And it turns to concrete.
Yeah.
But yeah. What's something you wish everybody knew about organic agriculture? So the public in general.
I think I'd have to go. There's a moment we were touring Grimway this summer, which was an amazing experience to get to go and see their operation and hear from them what their ideas and thoughts are in the industry. And there was a moment when we were talking about how consumer-led ideals of what vegetables should look like influences practices, and how much food we are wasting and throwing away because people on the consumer level expect perfect vegetables with no insect or any kind of damage on them, or even if they're looking kind of funky. And how I guess I would just hope that people understand how their standards influence agriculture, and especially organics, because it's easy to achieve that perfect standards when you're using synthetic chemicals. They're a lot easier, I should say.
Yeah.
And if you want good, healthy, clean, organic food, you should be able to lower your standards a little bit, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Or tolerate some
insect damage. Or Yeah,
and that's always been such a fascinating issue to me, and it's so prevalent throughout agriculture. I mean, one of the classic stories in apples is how the Red Delicious apple sort of came into dominance up there, around the 90s or so, and the dominant sort of ruby red shouldered apple had this really iconic appearance, but mostly tasted like water.
Yeah.
Just didn't have a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
And but the interplay between the consumer, the grower, and the marketers, and sort of how it's a system that seems to get going and it sort of self-reinforces. So it's like, oh, well, the consumer wants clean fruit, so okay, we better get clean fruit, or a fruit of a particular type, and then pretty soon that's all the consumer knows. And then if they see something else, it takes a while for them to break out. But it's interesting, in the apple industry, at least, you look at a lot of the new varieties, and they don't have that really consistent appearance that Red Delicious does. I mean, Honeycrisp is a kind of blotchy apple. Totally. I mean, there are some redder ones, and a lot of the newer varieties like Cosmic Crisp, Snapdragon, Evercrisp, they're all sort of, they're not ugly, but they have character, or more character. They're not as consistent as a Red Delicious. But I think the same is true throughout the produce industry, and it's a complicated issue. Actually, I'll ask you, what do you think? So, if you could wave your magic wand, if you had a magic wand, and do one thing to help address that issue, what would it be? To get consumers to think a little more about the appearance versus quality of. You do anything. It's a magic wand.
Okay, this magic wand.
Yeah,
I'm waving this magic wand, and I guess I would want people to try farming out. Everybody gets involved in agricultural production in some capacity, and they see the amount of food that we waste because it has insect damage firsthand. I think we'd see an overnight switch of people accepting products that are less than perfect.
So just getting people closer to growing food.
Totally.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So you've got 2 quarters left at Cal Poly, is that right?
Yep.
Or a quarter and a half?
Quarter and a half, yeah.
And then the hope is to go and try your hand at growing apples and
Yep.
some greenhouse agriculture, it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Max, thank you so much for being part of Organic Chat, and wish you the best of luck in your last quarter and a half. And
Thank you.
yeah, really excited to see what you do next.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Have a great day. Thanks for listening to Organic Chat. This podcast is recorded on the Cal Poly campus. Production provided by our production engineer, Mary Nascimento.